I'm currently exploring in my mind three different hypothetical price scenarios when it comes to Harmony's native token called One, and this is even like maybe hypothetically assuming there is a full-on type of altcoin season during this cycle. However, only time will tell, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, here's the first price scenario that I do want to explore when it comes to One. And that is maybe the idea hypothetically of 20 cents. That's around a 22x from here, and if we were to consider the current circulating supply at that point, the market cap would be nearly 3 billion. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because I am a fan of the fundamentals of Harmony, and let me explain what I mean by that. If we take a look at Harmony, for instance, right? It is an open blockchain network. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, who cares about that? Well, here's where I think things get a little bit more interesting. It's because Harmony's mainnet can run Ethereum applications while at the same time maintaining lower fees and having faster transaction speeds. So I think that's pretty cool, especially when we take a look at something like Ethereum, which is kind of known, right? At least to a lot of my friends out there for having, high gas fees and, just that type of vibe overall, which a lot of my friends really don't like. However, again, just generally speaking, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to Harmony in this case. However, even besides that, Harmony utilizes something called sharding technology. Now, why do I think it's pretty cool? It's because through sharding, the network is split into multiple sections known as shards, and workload on the network, they're distributed amongst these different shards, and as a result, it just becomes very scalable. However, to just kind of give an example of projects out there that are kind of known for this sharding technology aspect, I do want to mention, something like the Near protocol. Near, it's a very famous project. Also on top of that, we take a look at Zilliqa. Zilliqa is supposedly the world's first ever sharding-based blockchain. So again, it's not like Harmony is the only one that has the aspect of that, but I think it's still pretty cool and pretty interesting nonetheless. Also on top of that, we take a look at, for instance, Harmony uses a consensus mechanism called EPOS. Now, it's otherwise known as effective proof of stake, and this right here is actually very similar to the proof of stake model. And the reason why it's actually a little bit different, in my opinion, is because while most proof of stake systems reward validators for staking more tokens, Harmony's, again, EPOS, or should I say effective proof of stake, on the other hand, actually penalizes validators who stake too much on a single node. And some people may be thinking like, okay, why would they do that? Well, it's because supposedly the reason is to encourage decentralization. Because supposedly, the more decentralized a network is, allegedly the less susceptible it is to potential, breaches and stuff like that. So I do like that whole vibe again when it comes to Harmony. And also, when I take a look at just the project overall, I like how it's pretty established. When we take a look at some of Harmony's competitors out there, the market cap's kind of massive, right? But if I take a look at one, again, Harmony's native token, it's like less than 150 million. I'm not saying that is a small market cap by any means. It's actually kind of massive, but not too massive. At least that's the way I take a look at it. However, again, when I consider the fundamentals of Harmony and when I take a look at one, hypothetically, maybe at the idea of 20 cents, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if there was, let's say, a fully fledged type of altcoin season, but only time will tell. Now, the second hypothetical price scenario for me that I want to consider, or should I say I'm exploring right now, is maybe the idea of 23 cents. Now, that's around a 25.5x from here. Market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, nearly 3.5 billion. I mean, like to me, when I see something like BNB with a market cap, even let's say just we take a look at 2021 more specifically, even if we take a look at the example years ago, market cap was like even over 100 billion at that time. And that was years ago. This is like, such a small glimpse of that. Not necessarily saying that, it will be able to necessarily do that, but if it did, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but this is just my thought process. However, the third and final hypothetical price scenario that I do want to explore is maybe the idea of 25 cents. Now, that's nearly a 28x from here. Market cap at that point would be around 3.7 billion. However, when I take a look at this cycle, sometimes people like to say, oh, take a look at altcoins right now. They're not doing the best and all this. I'm totally aware of that. But I also take a look at the factors like supposedly over 600 million crypto owners currently. I take a look at the Ethereum ETF, the Bitcoin ETF. The way I view it is that sure, the space may not necessarily look the best as of right now when it comes to altcoins. However, if there was a fully fledged type of altcoin season, if it looked better than back in 2021, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me because again, the factors that I see right now. However, when it comes to the exact timeline, I don't think I'll be able to know exactly because how can I, right? Even if I pulled up a price chart, drew a random triangle, do you think the market's going to listen, or should I say pay attention to what I have to do? No, right? So then the only thing I can do is just stay patient, hold, and I just wait. And literally that's it. Because whenever the altcoin season ever even decides to happen, it's going to be beyond my control. Like, hypothetically, if it even happens next month, I will not be able to know the exact time, right? Even if it, let's say, waits until near the end of Q1 of 2026, so let's say near March at that time, like even at that time, I won't know. So whenever it happens, it's beyond my control, but there's only one thing I can do, and that's control myself. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, by the way, but personally, I am just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting for the projects that I am a fan of. And that's pretty much it. I'm just waiting for a moment in time as opposed to trying to find the perfect time. So again, I'm just literally waiting, holding, and just staying patient, and that's literally about it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Will Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.